We're going live and we're set.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to do a moment of silence to remember the services and sacrifices of the armed service members who protect our nation and the first responders who protect our neighborhoods, especially following this past Memorial Day and the services we had for veterans. So, a bit of silence. Clerk, please take the call.
Really quick. Pat, are you recording on WebEx?
It's recording.
Okay,
I can see recording up top, yeah.
perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Kelly?
Present.
Councilmember Quinn?
Here.
Councilmember Friedlander?
You're muted, Manny. There you go.
Here.
Councilmember Chris?
Here.
Councilmember Selberg?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Noon?
Here.
Vice President Sackett?
Here.
President Jackson?
Here. This meeting was advertised in the Daily Record and the Star Ledger, the official newspapers for the Township of Rockaway, on May 23rd, 2020. Notice was posted on the official bulletin boards of Rockaway Township. First item of matter is approval of the minutes from April 26, 2020 regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mac and Mary. Any discussion? Okay, clerk, take the roll.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander? You're muted, Manny.
Unmute again, Manny. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Did you vote yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Selberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. The minutes are approved. Next, let's go to open to public. Two things, Pat, did we get any email questions?
No, we did not, Council President.
And I cannot see anybody dialed in outside of us. I don't know if I have that view now because I'm not hosting it. Is there anybody out there?
Yes, Mr. Waters, do you have anything to say? Mr. Waters, he muted himself, so no.
Comments. Thank you.
Jim Waters, do you have something to say?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Sweet, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pat Degnan, do you have anything to say?
Yes.
Okay, please give your name and address.
88
Please.
View Drive, Rockaway, New Jersey. Just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the health department for all their help this past weekend in getting the White Meadow Lake beaches opened. They were absolutely phenomenally wonderful to us, and we were able to open the beaches. So I wanted to send a special thank you out. I've been on the beach committee for a number of years in White Meadow Lake, and I've never seen anything like this. I mean, to not be able to open the beaches and then to get the okay from the state, and then the township just ran with it. They were wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ms. Stegman.
Okay. Patrick Egan, you are unmuted. Would you like to speak?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Jennifer McCormick, would you like to speak? If you do, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jennifer McCormick. I live at 4 North Ridge Drive. Mailing address is
Could barely hear her. I don't know if I'm the only one.
No, I can't hear her either.
I can't either.
Jennifer McCormick, 4 North Ray Drive, Boonton, New Jersey.
Okay.
I wanted to call and talk about the ordinance request to change to allow my family to have chickens on our property. I also wanted to address the phone call that I got from David Dwyer this week that I thought was very unprofessional.
Okay. I don't know if Mayor or Mrs. Seeger, if you want to discuss first the question around the ordinance for chickens on properties.
Yeah, Council President, I just want to remind everybody, if there's any questions about personnel, we could deal with that separately on the side. I'll deal with the chicken with the ordinance issue. Ms. McCormick, myself and Pat Seeger, our business administrator, had spoken about the ordinance. We're reviewing it right now. Although it's been in place for a while, we're always open to taking a look at things and seeing if there's adjustments, things change, times change. So we are in a process right now of taking a look at that ordinance, seeing if there's any adjustments that can be made. Originally, the ordinance was put in place. There was an issue with people having chickens and not keeping the conditions sanitary. Neighbors complained of different smells. The coops weren't being maintained. So that's what was the driving force behind that ordinance. I'm sure that, when it was put in place, it was put in place because of those reasons. We are looking at it to see if there are adjustments or things that can be done that can be creative to maybe loosen some of the restrictions, but putting some fail safes in place so we don't have a repetitive or a repeat of why that ordinance came into place initially. So we are taking a look at it.
Okay, Ms. McCormick, did you have another question?
Well, I received a phone call at the last meeting that because of what was brought up at the meeting, somehow it ended up on Facebook, and I was the reason why people in Rockaway who had chickens illegally were losing chickens. I don't Facebook, and I don't appreciate anyone assuming that I'm some chicken crusader. And the phone call that I got said, now it's on Facebook, and you're the reason why the lady lost her chicken. Because somebody did something illegally, because I took it on myself to call and find out if there was an ordinance, I'm not the reason why the lady lost her chickens. I feel bad the lady lost her chickens. That's not my goal. I'm not here to advocate for Rockaway. I'm here to talk about my family's needs, and that's it. And I don't Facebook, and I don't appreciate the town assuming I Facebook, and I don't appreciate being now known as the chicken lady.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Mrs. Seeger, is there anybody else who wants to speak?
There's one more person. Let me check. I think she will, but I will. All I see is the name Sue. Would you like to speak? I don't think so. Okay, that's it.
Okay. Open to public is now closed. Going to move to the consent agenda. Does anybody need to pull anything out before I go through them?
Yeah, I make a motion, Council President, to remove R20-99, letter identified as C, to remove for discussion.
Sure, I'll second that motion. Clerk, can you take a roll call to remove R20-99?
Sure, just give me 1 second.
Yep, take your time.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Freelander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. So that will be removed for discussion. Let's go ahead and first go through and vote on the other 2 items in the consent agenda. So we'll be voting on A, R20-97 and B, R20-98. Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve A and B.
Second.
Mr. Kelly, Mr. Quinn. Clerk, take the roll whenever you're ready.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Freelander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon? Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. A and B are approved. I'll now open up C for discussion. Mr. Kelly, since you made the motion to remove it, do you have any discussion you'd want to have on R20-99?
I do. And under Resolution 2099, we have the resolution in support of the Senate Bill S-2475, as well as the Assembly Bill A-3971, which is authorizing the issuance of coronavirus relief bonds by the municipalities and counties. And this was something that I was following. There was word of it, and then it had come out in the second week of May, just a short time ago. And I've kept asking Council President to put on the COVID impact to residents and businesses update. And this kind of somewhat goes in concert with that. What we have here is, and it's in the middle of the first page, and I'll just read it briefly because it's a key component here. It says, whereas local governments are experiencing a record decline in revenue from permitting fees, license fees, parking revenue, hotel, motel, occupancy, taxes, and court fines, at the same time experiencing income losses due to the declined returns on investments with the uncertainty of property tax collection and state aid revenues in the horizon. Now, I think it's paramount that we move forward with this and pass this in order to offset those financial challenges that we may occur, which are happening in front of us. I mean, it didn't just start today. It started, a few months back, even prior to the state of emergency, how there was a diminishing component of businesses and jobs and whatnot. I mean, we're talking over a million unemployed in New Jersey. And forget about the amount of businesses that are shut down or potentially already closed. But in addition to this resolution that we have, I think that the township needs to explore and look forward and be a little bit more proactive of trying to figure out a way within our township that we can also assist these businesses and residents in trying to help get them back on track with regard to the financial strains that this pandemic has brought upon them. And I don't know if it's something that we can do to, like Mrs. Degman had mentioned about, they expedited the opening of the beaches. Is there a way that we can expedite the opening of these businesses to start collecting revenues that they so need in order to pay their taxes maintain a value of their business or their residence that's there, and also implement something and work with these businesses and residents for a soft opening and a safe opening, so that everything is done in accordance. It's not going to affect the health, safety, and well-being of customers, business owners, and residents that are there. So we have this in front of us to move forward to do that. I hope all of us, we put politics aside and we all want to see our governor open up our businesses to assist the tax collection and to make some revenue. But in this case right now, we have a really bad thing that we need to somewhat prepare ourselves, even going into 2021, because even on a commercial and industrial evaluations for a tax assessment, they may have so many vacancies, the potential of appeals next year could be very dire, and we have a very good frugal fund balance. And I just want everybody to understand what my thoughts are. I've heard Mayor Puzio in the past, and we have spoke about this in the past too, of concerns of the financial strains, in addition to the health concerns. So if we can just look a little bit broader than just resolution tonight, and work in harmony and concert with each other, not just the administration taking care of it, maybe implement ideas from all the other council members and department heads, and see what we can do. One question I do have, and I apologize for talking so much, and I'll end it on this. Mr. Mayor, or maybe the CFO, Mrs. Palmieri, do we have a projection of what we may need to potentially borrow in the event that we have some financial strains coming forward, going into the third or fourth quarter?
I'm gonna speak first. I'm gonna let our CFO. Councilman Kelly, all good points. I think we're all on the same page, all 9 council members. There's a lot of information in the pipeline and things come out daily. Executive orders, bipartisan committees at the federal level, at the state level. This bill, unfortunately, I mean, we passed resolutions here in town. I wish they're supportive resolutions. Unfortunately, we're not legislators, but we support, if as a council, as a town, we like something that's coming down from our elected officials and
Let them know.
Senate, we support them by doing these resolutions. I just want to make that clear for the public. With us passing this resolution tonight, that we support, it doesn't change. Ultimately, we're not legislators. We don't make the laws. That happens in Trenton, but I think that our elected officials do listen to us, and they do listen to the municipalities in Morris County and throughout the state, so it's a good thing that we're doing. I'm also concerned, as are all of our elected officials, as far as our tax revenue and what we're going to be collecting. I don't think that there's any crystal ball to tell where this is going to end up. I mean, we have to try to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and that's kind of what I think that you're talking about, Councilman Kelly.
Yep.
We're all in that area. I'm going to turn it over to Palmieri, our CFO, and let her answer some of those technical questions. She would be best to give you, accurate and concise answers. Lisa?
Thank you.
I too am concerned, as the mayor had said. We did fairly well the second quarter. We collected about 94% of our tax collection at that point, which this was as of May 21st. So that's actually very encouraging to hear. With this resolution, again, this is providing us with a tool should we need to borrow funds to meet any revenue shortfalls or any expenses that are related to the pandemic. I'm hoping that we won't need to go down this route, but if we do, having that in place will allow us to use that as a tool going forward.
Mrs. Palmieri, can I ask one question following that?
Sure.
The potential of borrowing, which we really don't want to do and put ourselves in additional debt, obviously.
Yes.
We do have monies that are within the municipality, whether it's through other ordinances from years in the past. Is there a possibility of reviewing other monies that we haven't used or maybe scheduled to use to projects that maybe aren't as dire as the fiscal health of our municipality, that we could go to that and use that without borrowing and then go back to maybe other projects at a later date when everything gets back and gets back to normal?
That's something we can certainly explore. These bills are really talking about, new borrowing, not taking old ordinances and repurposing them for the COVID pandemic. We do have reserves in place now that could be used towards COVID-related expenses, such as our storm recovery trust. But as far as going back to old ordinances, this really doesn't address that at this time, but it's something we can explore.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Anybody else have any discussion items? Okay, could we make a motion to approve R 20-99?
I make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So, Mr. Kelly and Mr. Quinn. You could take the roll when you're ready.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Chris,
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon, Vice President Sackett,
Did you say yes, Jonathan? You gave a thumbs up.
President Jackson,
Yes, that's 9 yeses. R 20-99 is approved. Next, I go to old business. Does anybody have any old business?
I have a few, Council President.
Go ahead.
I'll try to make them as quick as possible. I think the last one may be a little longer than the first few. Just checking to see if quick check if we've had any momentum, communication, any indication if they have pulled out moving forward, collection of escrows. Has there been any communication?
Said quick check.
Our town attorney speak to that?
I'm not aware of any applications from Quick Check, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
How about communications, though?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Any communications? Have we spoken to Quick Check?
There's been no business done with Quick Check. I really don't understand the question.
Do you mean Wawa?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I apologize. Yes, wow. I apologize.
That's what I said.
As far as Wawa is concerned, we had a meeting with our planner and our engineer. They were to go back to Wawa and discuss one thing that Wawa apparently, the developer, Verikia, was apparently willing to perform now. That is a traffic study to the specifications requested by the engineer. I do not know that we had a discussion about that last week. I don't know what the planner has been able to do with Gail Price, who is Verikia's attorney. So everything is waiting on that traffic study. I know that Verikia was anxious to proceed with the traffic study immediately, or at least that's the feeling we were getting. It was the assessment of the engineer and the planner that now is not the time to proceed with the traffic study if we have any hope of accuracy. So the channels of communication are open and we're pursuing them appropriately.
And Mr. Yatsufino, has there been any receipt of any escrow amounts that was discussed earlier for the efforts of our professionals and the cost to offset?
My understanding, and I'm sure Allison can speak to this better than I can, my understanding was there was an escrow balance in their account. No additional escrows have been requested at this time for the simple reason that we're finalizing details as to what they're going to do and when we're going to do it. At that time, we'll request the appropriate escrows.
Okay. My next old business is just checking in on the mall contract to see if we've had any communications with the mall. Since there's a potential soft opening soon to come, and then security would be needed. Has there been any communication with the mall about the security?
I've communicated with the mall's attorney, Jason Ritty, in Denville on about a weekly basis, if not more. He continues to tell us that due to the closures, they're unable to return the signed documents to us.
Is there a potential that could affect the document to where there might have to be an amendment or a redraft?
No.
The third order of business for old business is just following up with Bowieeville and the sewer commission. Has there been any movement, any other meetings that maybe can be done via Zoom or WebEx to move this forward?
The commission was obviously, well, we couldn't proceed in person. The commission, owing to the nature of the documents and evidence that's going to be presented to the commission from here on in, the commission was hesitant about proceeding virtually. I've been in touch again multiple times a week with the chair, Mr. Waters. We have finalized the latest exhibit package. Mr. Burek has been of great assistance in providing the maps. We are in the process of getting the maps copied in large size, which means roughly the size of our master tax maps. Mr. Waters and I have agreed that probably next week, for the sake of moving forward, we're going to probably have to talk with Pat about arranging virtual meetings for the commission.
Is there a way possible that the council could receive a copy of those maps that you're going to generate?
That would be inappropriate at this time.
And then the last thing for old business, I don't know if many of the council members had an opportunity to read the Daily Record article on May 11th of this year, written by Mr. Myers, a reporter. It talks about Peterson Field. You know, I was a little concerned with the article itself because there was some inaccurate information that was there and some information that should have been provided wasn't. But the council, the previous council that some of you have replaced, the mentality and the motivation of that project was to get some facts and figures together with regard to really the basketball court and tennis court, because that's what had happened. The tennis court became an issue in April of 18 by a resident at the open to the public portion. And then there was some insurance concerns of the conditions of the field, and they were repaired before Flag Day of the same year. But there was nothing of the council that was anti or rebellious of any improvements. We just wanted to see a cost analysis and a plan, which wasn't provided until late October of 2018, 2 years after it was requested to be done. So now here we are moving forward. We had a $400,000 cost estimate with some things that definitely were not needed. We had some other estimates from other neighboring towns that had done similar work to their basketball courts at a fraction of the projected cost at ours. And that was a little bit of a concern, not getting information, nobody being reasonable to put it under a referendum, let the taxpayers decide. Now we go into the February 27th budget meeting. And at the end of that meeting, just before it closed, there was a motion to increase a $500,000 line item for the rec center in Peterson Field. Again, not seeing any plans that I was aware of other than Councilmember Brooks had submitted a plan in early October as an elected official. And now there's a new company, E&L Associates out of Cedar Knolls, that's now involved and had provided a plan after the bond ordinance. The mayor had made some comments with some of this construction taking place, talking about the concession stand, doing a new one. We just did one not that long ago. There was coaches in the football that were providing notice about having a turf field, which the voters had turned down, a few years back, of a substantial amount of cost. So what state are we at right now? Because the only plan that I received, and I've asked for it several times, is from Mr. Brooks. And now this new plan that we haven't received, or I should say I haven't received yet. and we have this pandemic going on where we may have to actually borrow money to pay some of our bills. Is there a way, gentlemen and women, that we can actually have a valid discussion of this as 9 city members of council during a meeting? No politics, no emotions, looking at it on the fiscal end of the money that we're going to spend for some of these improvements that were never discussed prior to these things passing, as far as our introduction of our budget hearings, and then the adoption of that budget. I recognize the investments we needed. I'm almost done, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I understand the investment. I can't disagree with you with an investment and the improvement. And the council, even you, Mr. Mayor, have adopted this problem that's been going on for 20 years. We didn't create the problem. We're trying to be a solution to the problem. But just throwing money out there and telling people we're going to do this or do that without anything on the plan or a cost analysis, we wouldn't do that in our own private budget. We wouldn't do it in a private sector of a company that we work for. So can we all get on the same page and get an understanding what we're going to do? Are we turfing it? Are we doing a new concessions area? Are we doing a dog park? These are things that we need to know before we start taking money and potentially borrowing it, especially during this pandemic. This is secondary to the health of our physical health of our residents, as well as the financial health of our residents and businesses. That's all. I just asked. That's not a bad thing to ask.
No, listen, I think we are on the same page, Councilman Kelly. Don't get caught up in the weeds. Any of you guys and women up here, any of our elected officials, don't get caught up in a Daily Record article. There's definitely no, it was not said by myself that we're going to be doing anything with the concession stand. You are.
It's quoted by you.
You are 100% correct. We're not going to be doing anything. It's brand new. So I don't know where that came from. My intent was and has always been to put 9 people in a room. This council, I've been saying this since I've been mayor, since I've been on, when I was a councilman. It is a council of 9. It is not a council of 1 or 2 or 3. It is a council of 9. The majority of the council is going to make a decision, whether it be 9 folks who vote yes or 6 who vote yes, 3 no. It could be, you know, any combination. And as far as what's needed at the field, what I've done is I had EI Associates, as I stated in the past, update the plans because it's been so long and I wanted to get something down on paper. All I heard for the past few years is there's no plan, there's no master plan. So as I said in the past, I had all of the sports, the heads of the sports at the current time come in and we sat down. We did have a meeting because everyone knows that I'm a collaborative person. I don't make decisions in a vacuum. So with that said, the intent is to let our recreation committee take a look at the plans. I'm going to have Mr. Quinn, I'm going to have Councilman Quinn and Councilman Brooks take a look at the plans, go over them initially, and make sure that some of the revisions that we need are done without discussing numbers just yet, because I don't think we're allowed to discuss numbers in terms of forbidding issues. And I can let Allison speak to that, to the legalities of that. Ultimately, my plan is to have 9 people. I will not be making this decision as to what path or what process is going to be used in terms of what improvements are going to be made. And yes, that we have had the COVID pandemic. That is certainly a concern. I think we all have the same concerns. I can guarantee you this, Councilman Kelly, that before that field or improvements are made, all 9 council people will be involved. I can guarantee.
And Mr. Mayor, just to respond to that real quick, that the council voted when another council member brought up $500,000 with no discussion. None whatsoever. It wasn't even allowed to take place when we were at that meeting. So how can the council actually vote on something with no information?
And no information in terms of what?
Well, we only had a concept plan that was drafted by a council member. That is an ethics concern I have, but that's another
No,
issue.
no, it was the concept plan, the plan that we were going moving forward has been drafted by EI, one of our vendors.
When was it drafted and submitted to the council?
It has not been submitted to the council yet.
Okay, that's all I asked. Thank you. That's okay.
Now, I just want to bring up another point. How the council votes, the council and the mayor are two separate entities. How the council votes, I don't control the council. That's for the body of 9 to decide what they want to do. I present a budget each year. The administration, the CFO presents a budget each year to the council, and it's done on the recommendation of our department heads. Pat Seeger, our business administrator, our CFO, we go through the budget separately before it even reaches the council. Then we say, we talk with our department heads. We have heart-to-heart discussions as to what's needed, what's not needed. Then that council book, that budget is presented to you men and women, elected council people, to go through and flesh out. That's up to you. I don't even get involved in that point. That's where you, as a body of 9, control the money.
Oh, so you had no involvement of maybe putting money aside for this project prior to the budget, behind the scenes? There was no discussion with our department heads about
what you received in your budget book, your initial budget book, is what the administration presented.
Oh, so you had no idea. See, I thought you had an idea.
No, I don't.
President, can we please move this meeting along?
Yeah, okay. So you get a budget book with the recommendation.
Oh, I know. I just thought you had some involvement of knowledge of moving forward for the 500,000 that none of us had any documentation to review before we voted on it. That's all.
This is becoming kind of a debate. I'd like to kind of move on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any other old business?
Yes, Council President, this is I did have a question. Actually, my first question is for the mayor. Mayor Puzio, back when you were on the council and former Mayor Datchison was discussing plans for Peterson, I seem to recall other members of the council demanding a master plan for any plans going forward on Peterson. Would that be correct?
That is absolutely correct, yes.
So I'm a little confused. Why now that we're moving forward and following the direction of the last council, why do we have such obstacles now trying to follow through on what they demanded?
Well, we haven't received those plans, Mr. Salberg.
And that's what we're getting.
I do believe, though, the first step was to have it in the budget, Councilman Kelly, and I believe that
Mr. Salberg, there was no plan submitted to the council. You voted no against it. You voted no against it.
Yes, and then I had a discussion.
Yes, you voted no
with the
against it.
council. Councilman Kelly, why were you demanding a master plan? Now we've taken the first steps. And once I spoke to the council president, council vice president, and understood it more, I'm new at this. Once I understood that this was a plan moving forward, pretty much what you were demanding in the last council to get a master plan, now we are finally on the path of doing that. And I don't understand the obstruction.
There's no obstruction, Mr. Salberg. I just haven't received it. Have you?
Does anybody else have any old business?
You haven't received the plan you and you voted for
You have tried to
500,000.
stop it at every step. No, the
Rubber stamp, Mr. Salberg.
There's no need to debate it any further. Does anybody else have any old business?
Joe?
One more question, Council President. This is
Hold
for
on, Mr. Salberg isn't done. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, go ahead.
just a question for the clerk. I know that we were waiting on a few council members for signatures on the audit. I just wanted to find out if we have collected all 9 members.
Yes, we have selected all 9 members. I signed it today. It was notarized today. It should be getting mailed out to the state tomorrow morning.
That's great news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You think you're good, Adam? Okay.
I am. Thank you.
Councilman Freelander?
Yeah, just a quick thing. I was a couple minutes behind. On the agenda tonight, approval of minutes, number 6. Now it's old business. It says April 26th, and I believe that's what we voted on, which is a Sunday. And if you look, it says the draft minutes for April 28th, which is a Tuesday. So that should be corrected, I believe.
Nice catch, Manny.
Should be a motion to amend the minutes as Councilmember Freelander just stated.
All right, Manny, you like to make the motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to change approval minutes from April 26th 2020 to the correct date, April 28th, Tuesday, 2020.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Jack.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
You voted yes?
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. The date is amended. Moving on, any new business?
I have a few new businesses I can make pretty quick, Council President.
Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
One with new business. I mean, it's something that we have a contract in, but maybe moving forward with this, Waste Management provides us for our bulk waste. And back when the council had changed, they didn't vote on it in 2017, and it went into 2018. And we were kind of under the gun of a certain amount of time, and it would be a huge increase if we didn't vote on it, or if we did it for 1 year rather than the 3 years, which accumulates a little over $1 million, I think 1.2 million. Now, during this COVID, which obviously nobody had foreseen, we had a reduction of service from Waste Management. We have certain areas get 2 bulk pickups in 1 week at one address in specific areas, and others only get the 1, especially at the northern end. I've mentioned that before, and it's really never been resolved or addressed with Waste Management. But now we are having no bulk, to the point where we just had a memo, I think, on the 15th of May from Waste Management that you can only put out 1 item that's there. And we're having a reduced amount of service, whether it's for a couple of weeks, a month, whatever it may be, that the residents aren't receiving. And because it is COVID, people are home, they're purging, they're decorating, they're doing some interior construction and needing some items to be thrown out. Has there been any communication with Waste Management of potentially getting a credit, a refund, some type of relief for the lack of services that they've been compensated for?
Yes, I'm gonna let Ms. Seeger speak to that. We've been
I brought this up last
a few times. Pat?
Yes, I've been in communication with Waste Management. Starting June 1st, they're back to the regular pickup. And he said when they get back to business, he knows that I'm interested in some kind of compensation for the time that he missed. But he said he can't discuss it because they're not back to work full time yet. But he has an email from me, 2 or 3 emails, and I've been emailing Mr. Councilman Sackett about it, and I've been on top of it, and I will stay on top of it.
Okay, at least we're in the works of doing that. I have had some people that had reached out, and in all honesty, from what I saw around the areas throughout Rockaway Township, there was a large amount of items in some of that bulk pickup piles in my travel routes, and some that had small, and they all got picked up. You know, so others still have items that needed to be discarded, could be in the way. And I didn't know if there's a potential, maybe a phone call of relief that maybe we can help out with some people that didn't get an item picked up that they could have put out that they didn't because of that memo or that illusion that only 1 item would be picked up at the time.
It is 1 item to be picked up. If they happen to pick up much more, it was because they had room in the truck that day.
Okay.
But there have been residents calling us, and DPW has been handling it with Waste Management as we get the phone calls.
And Mr. Knopf is doing a phenomenal job too, by the way. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My next new business, and this is the last thing I have. Mr. Mayor, if you recall, when we were shutting down the parks from the executive order that the governor had closed state parks and county parks, the local agencies or municipalities had the option to keep them open or close them down. And between the mayor and the borough, Denville, some chose not to close. And we did because we share a park with Parks Lake. But there was some direction for people to go up north into the Wildcat Ridge area and the 6th Ward, hiking and mountain biking, which everybody does. And I have to say, people take it very serious there. As you recall, we had an individual going for an Eagle Scout that wanted to do a kiosk for trail recognition and letting people know where they are. There's always what you bring in, you bring out. They're very conscientious and very kind. Mountain bikers that see each other or break down or try to make conditions safer on the trails. It's a good thing that we have up there. Recently, we had an issue, and I'm not sure if it was on Rockaway land or if it was part of Wildcat Ridge, of hikers and bikers that were making the trail safer or grooming it and whatnot and making areas better for crossing, making it safe. And there was authorities that were involved. There was a council member that was involved on stopping this taking place. What can we do to inform those who take advantage or want to use the openness and the open space of Rockaway Township in the state, in the Wildcat Ridge, in the northern portion of town, so they're not in a situation or concerned of making something safer or doing something with the potentiality of having police or elected official or administration coming down on that individual or group.
Okay, I don't know what situation you're talking about somebody that was making something safe. If you would have brought that to me sooner, I would have addressed it sooner. Can you elaborate on that quickly?
I believe just a few days ago, maybe Mr. Salberg might have some information about it.
What's the point? Like, what are you trying to achieve so I can help you?
Well, I'm trying to make sure that the mountain bikers that are trying to groom and make the trails safe for hikers and the mountain bikers, that they can do this without having any concern of being in trouble.
Right? How are they? You have more information than I do. How are these mountain bikers and hikers making it safe? What are they doing?
Well, like rocks that would be in the trail to make it a safer riding trail, walking trail that would move to the side. If there was a crossing area that maybe had mud or was a little bit of an unsafe terrain, they would make it a more sturdy, crossable area with flat stones or rocks or wood material or whatnot. And, it had come across me by a few. And, mountain bikers and hikers want to stay within the trail system and they want to have it safe for them as well. But the police were called, I believe, by an employee of the town. A council member allegedly got involved and kind of put the kibosh to what they were trying to do. And I just want to make sure that I can respond accordingly, whether or not they can trespass on that property. And in the meantime, making it safe if there's an issue that they see.
Well, I'm sure, I don't think there's a problem if somebody's moving a rock out of the way. If somebody's bringing in, and I'm being sarcastic right now, if somebody's bringing in an I-beam to put a bridge across a mountaintop.
No, we're not building the Chestnut Bridge over there.
That's
no.
what I'm saying. You know, I mean, I'm sure there's a balance of as to what you can disturb and what you can't. I mean, part of Wildcat Ridge, that's state land. The state deals with that. So I think it may fall under their jurisdiction.
We also have the Girl Scout camp too, where that trail system goes into that Girl Scout camp.
I don't know. Was there a problem that, I mean,
from what I understand, I don't know if Mr. Salberg has any information.
Well, Councilman Kelly, I do believe there's very clear prohibited practices on town land as far as moving items and building things. But I have a hypothetical question for you. Since have these folks been hired by Rockaway? Are they licensed engineers to, basically have they given the authorization to build anything on our land. And with that, if anyone was to be hurt on these structures that they're building on our land, will they be stepping up to deal with the lawsuit, or would that be the town?
You know what, Mr. Stolberg, that would be a good question for you to ask of the individuals before you had them removed or stop them from what they were allegedly doing. As far as an engineer moving a rock, I'm not aware of that being required. I'm sure you've never reached out to move a rock before and get approval from the county, the state, or the township. But I'm
I
just
did the
wondering,
right thing
you might have
and
some knowledge
suggested
about
to
it,
have
you
the
can
police.
share it to the council, so you don't have these issues with litigation.
All right.
Share what you know.
I don't see this conversation going anywhere productive.
Well,
You
can
know,
we do, what can we do on waste
so
management?
Mr. Kelly, you were there, you saw them only moving rocks and all that. I
I
mean,
was only in discussion with a few of them, no.
you know exactly what happened, right? And exactly everything they did. You don't. So I think it was probably wise to have it investigated or whatever, but nothing's going to be resolved debating this here.
No, Mr. Jackson, I think you missed the point.
Accusations and
What I asked, Mr.
bringing
Jackson,
people's names up and all those things. There's no point to it. I would
Mr. Jackson,
contact
nobody's
the
names are brought up.
administration and the mayor and take it from there.
Mr. Jackson, I don't believe that that was the case. I never said that I was there. I don't think Mr. Salberg was there either.
Right.
All I
So
asked
you don't know what happened though. You don't know what was done.
All I asked was, what can hikers and mountain bikers do on the terrain? Can they modify the terrain to make it safe by moving rocks and bettering crossing areas or not? I don't know why it's so difficult.
Listen,
Here, I'll put this to bed. I can check with the state and see what's allowable on state land.
As well as the township property too. That'd be great. Thank you,
Correct.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
okay. Any other new business, Mr. Kelly?
No, that was it. Thank you, though.
Anybody else have new business? Okay, let's move on to reports.
Joe, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jack.
All right. I'm checking to see if anything has been done to give guidance to the rec programs moving forward once we do come out of this COVID, so that they can get back into playing sports. I had asked administration and Peter especially to give guidance so that we don't have willy-nilly stuff going on, everybody doing something different. Give them guidance so that we protect the kids moving forward, getting the sports back into programs.
In other words, one path, Mr. Quinn, you're looking for?
A uniform path.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Seeger, if you've had any conversations, or you have any plans for that or I know Mr. Coward's not on the call. Maybe that's something you could circle back with him.
I can tell you that Mr. Tabbitt has been giving us guidance on every time we've opened something up, just like they told you at White Meadow Lake with the lakes all opening, he gave guidance to them. And when we get the okay for the sports groups, Mr. Tabbitt will provide guidance again.
Mrs. Seeger,
Yes.
we haven't seen anything from the league or the state indicating anything about recreational sports and any stopping of them taking place. Like, you know, and generally there's a lot of insight that we receive on information through our state leaders in the league and other professionals about other areas of opening up, whether it's the parks, like a pack on the beach, you know, certain non-essential businesses and stuff like that. Construction areas have been opened up now. Have you seen or heard anything from your interactions with some of these professionals and legislators and leaders of any projection of those sports programs being allowed? I know Cuomo in New York is letting the Yankees now practice. I know that's in New York, but have we heard anything regarding sports in New Jersey?
Yeah, the governor today allowed the professionals, they have the guidance of 25 people at a time on the outside. He said recreation would be a few weeks away. I've seen some information come out of the New Jersey Parks and Recs Association, but nobody has exact details yet until the governor releases his direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? Okay, moving on. Let's do council reports. I'm going to just go look at my screen. Mr. Salberg, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, just very briefly. Again, I had the opportunity to attend the Memorial Day service at the Presbyterian Church. It was fitting. It was appropriate where it was on the hallowed ground of where these folks are buried. And I just want to thank all the organizations involved again for a very appropriate and a very somber ceremony for our fallen. Also, no question about it that as things are being opened and business is slowly coming back to normal, there's still a lot of people out there that are hurting. The First Presbyterian is still looking for donations for the Rockaway Food Closet. So again, any opportunity you have at the store, please pick up a few extra cans, bring them down there. It's sorely needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks. There you go.
The only thing that I want to say is just for everyone to just hang in there, and hopefully we're going to get through this sooner than later. And other than that, just stay safe.
Thank you. Mr. Friedlander. You're muted. You're muted.
Now I'm not, right?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, just a couple things. Historical Society's been pretty quiet, but the end of this month, they're voting on their new slate of offices for the next year. Library, everything's done at the branch, Marcella branch. So when everything is good to go, so is the building. They're doing some cleanup in the main branch, little painting, cleaning up again. They set up different phases. If you check their website, they're going to do some online programming, figuring out a way to drop off books and pick up books. Actually, things will probably be a little quiet since they're doing the parking lot now. So that's about it for that. Again, I was with Adam and Councilman Jonathan Sackett at the Presbyterian Church, and Memorial Day service is always touching to me for personal reasons and for everybody else involved. And just stay safe, and hopefully we're getting through this month and maybe a half a month to go. That's it, Council President.
Mr. Freelander, Mr. Freelander, one quick question about the library.
Yes.
The painting and the extra work, do they need any volunteers to help them with that?
No. They're already contracted out that they have to go through, and it's pretty reasonable what they got, what they're doing. Guys, I don't know how he's going to do it. I mean, I could count if you want to know, but they're doing a lot of rooms, and with supplies, it's not even $2,000.
Okay.
So the guy is pretty much doing it for pro bono.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kritz.
I just want to echo what others are saying. With the light at the end of the tunnel, just want to be careful about going, too far, too fast. Things reopening slowly doesn't mean, we're back to normal right away. So use your discretion, use common sense, especially as, a lot of us have kids and they miss their friends, and, we're not looking to have them all, joining up right away. And it's not friends, it's their family members. It's, it's still out there. Reopening doesn't mean that it's gone. So just, again, use common sense and everybody be safe.
Thank you. Mr. Quinn.
Yes, I attended the WebEx with the planning board. We approved a secondary building on Tilcon's property for one of their leasees, and that is moving forward. And again, everybody, please be safe. And like Howard said, be smart. Thank you. Have a great day.
Ms. Noon.
Yeah, just wanted to echo that everybody be safe. Everything are opening up very slowly. It's also very nerve-wracking because I know people are itching to get out. So just be cautious and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly.
I got a couple of things. One about the Memorial Day. I just, there were some towns that had it. It was very limited as far as attendance. They did their best they can under the circumstances. And it's always moving. Especially White Meadow Lake was something I always look forward to at their 6 a.m. that they would do. And it's just a shame, but hopefully next year we can revisit that and look back on this in the past. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that the freedom that we received from the fallen soldiers throughout these wars and throughout all of the military is a debt that none of us could ever repay. My father, my uncle, I've had other uncles too as well that have fallen from issues with Vietnam, as also World War II. I know Mr. Mayor Puzio's dad was a WW2 guy too. And a lot of that stuff kind of hits home. And it's really not about hamburgers and hot dogs. It's just really remembering those people that let us do what we're doing. I mean, the soldiers gave us the ability to vote, speak in our language, Constitution, to live in freedom. And we're here because of them. And ultimately, some give and some give all. And it's just something that we need to remember on that. I just want to follow up. Again, I know it's something that is repetitive with me, but it's a passion I have with Rise Up, Operation Clean, and the food closet, as Mr. Salberg had mentioned earlier. We had another meeting last Wednesday. Rise Up and Operation Clean have collected so much items to pass over to Mrs. Kirby over at the food pantry, or food closet, I'm sorry. And we've collected also just under $10,000 at that particular time that we've been passing out to those in need who are on those recipient of those meal programs that are there. But one thing did come up, and I don't know if any of you had read it. Mr. Jackson, I think you might be involved a little bit with the Holy Trinity down in Dover. I'm not sure, but I thought for some reason you may have. A lot of the homeless that are in the quad area of the towns that come together, where it's Rockaway Borough, Randolph, Denville, Rockaway Township, and even Dover and Victory Gardens. Where Blackwell Street ends, there's those bridges, Helmet, the Rockaway Borough Bridge, which is down by Trend Motors. There are homeless that are there. They're not purposely self-quarantined, but they have been for a large portion of their life in the situation that they were in. They had some temporary shelter when it was cold, and some of them were going to be moving out of that. One thing that came up in our conversations of what we're collecting and furthering the food and disinfectants, paper towels, and money and so forth, and clothes, sleeping bags. There was some request to maybe potentially purchase sleeping bags, which are roughly $39 a piece from Dick's. But now because of COVID, it's hard to get some of this stuff. And if anybody's watching, in addition to the other things that I had mentioned of the finances, the food, the cleaning supplies, facial masks, whether for children or for adults, anybody can give up a sleeping bag. There's roughly about 16 to 24 people that were in those shelter areas that are now going back into their communities that are there. And if anybody can just think about that and maybe make that drop of a donation, it could be at St. Cecilia's over on Church Street. It could be over at Holy Lutheran Trinity Church at 508 Green Pond Road. And I think Mrs. Kirby, knowing some of the information that I'm telling you, if it was dropped off at the food closet, the First Presbyterian, even though they're closed to take donations, and the St. Cecilia's is taking some of them, you might want to try over there too, as well as our temple with Rabbi Popke. He was also part of that meeting. So I would appreciate that. And then one thing I wanted to respond to, I was going to address my COVID pandemic update, which the council president moved after the mayor's report. But I really touched that because it coincided with the resolution that we would read for the Senate and the Assembly bill. One thing I want to address, and I'll end it at this, there was a comment made at the last meeting about the 2019 budget. And our 2018 and our 2019 budget, we have collaborated together with some of the old council members, line by line, several meetings, participation from everybody. And we were able to come up to a little over $1 million of reduction in 2018, and getting a thumbs up from our auditor that we had a good fund balance, some vacant positions that were not filled for years, and no reduction in service. The following year, which more of you were involved with, and I applaud Mr. Sackett because he really was on the same page when we're talking about vehicles replacements and other things like that. We voted in favor of a reduction of $540,000. So collectively in those 2 years, we were able to save the taxpayers, which a lot of us had ran on, of $1.5 million plus. I had an individual, a council member, that made a comment about a poor 2019 budget meeting. And in our 2020 budget meeting, you heard our auditor say, planning, great fund balance, put us in a great position moving forward into 2020, where we really have a $300,000 increase this year. Even though they said there's zero increase on the municipal end, there's still a $300,000 increase. Ironically, though, that same individual that made those comments received almost a $40,000 of an increase of his assessment, with a reduction in his taxes of almost $400. Instead of complimenting it, he champions against that, but doesn't champion about the $650,000 not collected from Bowvieville. When the school board raised the taxes $2 million, never championed, never complained about that. The lawsuit, removing a council member and losing in court. I mean, you never hear anybody vocalize about that. The environmental commission losing, not having minutes, never vocalizes about that, but complains about a 2019 budget that individual benefited from fiscally and monetarily. His amounts were actually that of 2015 levels. And you know what? Moving forward, just stop it. That's all. Just stop it. We're doing the best that we can. We're all trying to do the same thing. I'm not interested in spending other people's money without plans and some things in place so that everybody can benefit, not just a few. But I would never complain about being a recipient of a reduction that monetarily was something that was positive for that person. With that, I have no other report.
Okay. Vice President Sackett.
Just a reminder to participate in the 2020 census. It's real important. 2020census.gov. That's one thing. Second thing is just a great job by the town, and it was mentioned, POA as well, setting up some social distancing on the beaches. They did a great job in White Meadow Lake, and also very nice. I was honored to attend the little ceremony we had yesterday. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Attended the Memorial Day ceremony at the Presbyterian Church yesterday. Was an incredibly appropriate service, good social distancing. I think the young lady who sang the Star Spangled Banner did a phenomenal job, and the young Boy Scout who did played taps on his trumpet. I understand it's a pretty difficult song to play. Really did a great job, and the mayor had a nice speech, and I think the benediction that was done and the borough mayor's speech were all very well done. It was just a great honor to be there. With that said, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you for anything you have to report on.
Yes. I just want to remind everybody, I know we brought up the budget tonight. Councilman Kelly brought it up. We did deliver this council. I said it last meeting, I'll say it this meeting. This entire council delivered a slight reduction in the municipal portion of the budget this year. So without getting into all the minutia and how we got there and the different perspectives, what's important to one person may not be as important to another. That makes our council great. We can debate, we can bring different ideas to the table, and I appreciate that. At the end, we did deliver a sound and fiscally responsible budget. I just want to remind everybody just because certain things are budgeted, allocated, whether it's 500,000, 200,000, $1 million, doesn't mean that it has been spent. So I have to stress that just because money is allocated does not necessarily mean that it's going to be spent or is spent. It's there for potential projects that we're working on. So just because it's line doesn't mean that at the end of the year, it's not going to be in that line anymore. A little fun fact about our Memorial Day ceremony yesterday. We did a small tour. We ended up in Rockaway Borough. We joined up with the Memorial Day Association, Rockaway Township, Rockaway Borough. They are one association. It's the Rockaway Marcella Denville Memorial Association. Before years ago, 150 years ago when it was formed, over 150 years, it was one unified group, and it remains that way today. But one of the facts is that and I just found this out, the Presbyterian church where that monument is, that's Rockaway Township soil. We own, Rockaway Township has the deed to that monument area. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Right in the middle of the borough, we have a small piece of Rockaway that's there. We addressed, I know on the agenda is the economic impact to residents with the COVID update. I'm not going to get into that. We've addressed that already. We know people are hurting. We know some things that are going on. Like I said, we're going to plan for the worst and hope for the best. The pipeline of information is changing every day, so it's really hard to get a complete handle on it. I wish I don't have a crystal ball to tell you where this is going to end up. It's going to be a lot of planning and watching and making sure that we're on top of things. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to our township attorney.
Hold on one second. I just want to make sure, Mr. Mayor. So in terms of item C, the economic impact to residents, you have nothing further to add to that, correct? So we can go through. Okay, thank you. Township attorney, Mr. Mastrolano, do you have anything?
Thank you, Council President. No report.
Okay. Mrs. Seeger, do you have anything to report?
No, thank you.
Okay. Does any other member of the administration that's on have anything they have to report or want to report? Okay. With that said, can we get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Howard? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Meeting's adjourned.